Jake Riccardi, welcome to On the Pine, mate. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, boys. Thanks for having me.
Joining us from Sydney. How's pre-season been, mate, so far? Jumping back into it with a bit of normality compared to last season, obviously.
Yeah, it's been good. We've obviously had a fair load the past few weeks with the shortened pre-season, trying to get a bit in over the next few weeks before games start. But it's been good. We only had a few out in the rehab group and stuff, and seems like everyone's going really well. So it's been good so far.
It's your second pre-season. Are you finding it any easier, or is it one of those things that just doesn't seem to get easier? It's always pretty hard.
Yeah, well, I think in your first year you get managed a fair bit. So like last year, myself and the other draftee, we obviously it's a different world, the AFL, compared to what we've been used to. But you get taken out of a lot of stuff, and your weights program's a lot lighter than the other boys, and all the stuff on the track. So I feel like this year they've let us do a lot more. So it's obviously been a lot tougher, and there's some long days there, and by the time you get home, you're wrecked, and you got to start again early in the morning the next day. So it's a bit to get used to, but I love it still.
And do you feel as though the group's sort of pushing harder so far this pre-season, obviously with 2020 being a bit disappointing compared to 2019? Is there a bit of like an extra drive within the group?
Yeah, it's never good having a disappointing year. I think last year a few things didn't really go our way. I feel like the personalities we got in the group, they're all very determined anyway. I feel like last year in the pre-season, it was a very similar mindset, and everyone's really determined to get the most out of themselves. And I feel like this year nothing's really changing. Everyone, I guess, with last year, some guys have gone away with a bit more of a mindset to improve, and you can really notice that. And I feel like we're all going really well. So hopefully we can just maintain this for a couple of weeks and then get into the season.
And for you, Jake, what's your personal focus been this pre-season? I feel like you jump on the scene and you do the high marking, superb, and goal kicking and all that stuff. Is there something that you've been focusing on individually that you really want to get better at and make a priority of yours in 2021?
I think before we got to the club for that 5 or 6 weeks, we obviously had like the off-season program to do. So I just made sure I wanted to nail that and really build my tank up and improve my running a fair bit and hold that. And I think just since we've been back, just always work. I like working on all my strengths. I feel like I've been getting on the marking bag a fair bit, and just keeping ad layers and that part of my game, and just really work on that as well.
And speaking of obviously bursting on the scene late last season, with Jeremy Cameron going out, do you sort of eye that full forward spot for round one?
Yeah, well, I guess losing him is going to be difficult, and it does leave a spot open. But at the same time, you don't want to worry about who's going where and what. And I think for me, I worried more about getting the most out of myself over the past couple months, and then when I really got to the club, to just really put my foot forward and really give myself the best chance to, when I do play, to play well. So even though I guess him being gone opens up a bit more opportunity, but I guess it means it's got to be more ready to play when the time comes.
And Jake, taking you back to when you first came to the club, and speaking of Jeremy, was he sort of the guy that took you under his wing a little bit, or who was the guy that was sort of your mentor, I guess, for your first year?
Yeah, well, I guess with Jezza, I feel like Jezza and Tobes were the main two of the forwards. They're obviously the stars of the competition. So I feel like naturally for everyone, like they just really gave a helping hand in all aspects of everyone's game. I did feel like, especially when I played, Harry Himmelberg, he was really helpful for me. He was always talking to me and just giving those like little words of wisdom to me, and just kept me encouraged and kept me focused while the game was on. So I feel like Jezza was important, and obviously the player is, and we're obviously both key forwards. But yes, even Himmels and I feel like guys like Jeremy Finlayson were really helpful too. So I feel like we all kind of shared the load a bit, and then those guys really helped me through the start of my career.
Can you tell us a bit about Harry Himmelberg? Because while he's not the big name like a Jeremy Cameron, I feel like he's that sort of quiet assassin that just does the fundamental stuff right, and that he's someone that in the four walls everyone really loves having, on your side, and just does everything right that you need team-wise. Is that correct, or am I just watching that wrong? Because he seems like he's that guy that is really valuable with just the small things that he does, not also, the goals and all the highlight stuff.
That's yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think, well, in the year that the boys, I think the year the boys made it to the granny, I'm pretty sure he finished, he might have been first or second in goal assists for the whole comp. So, like, he's definitely valued by us. And, you know, he's got some freakish abilities. His kicking is unbelievable. And, you know, I think that's probably why he finished so high in the goal assist tallies, because when he's got the ball from 50 to 70, he's always just able to find something, and he's really well respected in that aspect as well. So, yeah, I think you're spot on there.
And you spoke before of obviously Toby Green taking you under his wing taking you under his wing when you got to the club. When he plays well, the whole team lifts. What's his influence like behind closed doors within the group?
Yeah, well, I think, you know, he's just one of those guys that when he speaks, everybody listens. So, and he's a very good player, as you said, and he can really lift the whole team when he's playing well. Behind closed doors is no different. I think he trains at such a high level, and his standards are that high that, you know, when you watch him train, he trains harder than anyone. And I think that's just the kind of the level he sets, and that's the expectancy from everyone else that he expects from the whole club. So that's just, I think, the way he trains, that's his thing. You know, everyone knows that he's an elite trainer, and he trains every session, trains very hard. So that's his impact on the group, and he's very vital.
And last year, did you realistically expect to play in 2020? Obviously, you came from Werribee, but did you expect to get games late in the season like you did?
No, well, I think, especially first coming, I didn't really think. I was more just, you know, getting there and just trying my best to do all the hard work and get through it all. Later on in the season, I got told that I was playing some pretty good footy in the twos, and I thought my time was coming potentially soon, and it did. And, yeah, but at the start of the year, definitely didn't really expect to crack in much. I was just kind of more there. You know, obviously, if it came, I wouldn't have been surprised, but more to develop and, you know, just add layers to my game. So then, yeah, when it did come, it was a bit of a surprise, but I guess my form in the twos was good enough, and then, yeah.
And what was it like playing in the twos last season? Because it was obviously a bit different to like how it'd be usually, where you'd be playing, you know, other sides each week. It was almost as if you were playing like, I saw some of the teams up north in Queensland. You know, you had Fremantle, Sydney, and Melbourne all putting teams together just to field a side. What was it like?
Yeah, it was a bit strange. Like we played the Swans. I remember we played maybe 13 practice games and twos for the year. I think we played the Swans about 7 times. And the first 4 weeks we played against them week after week. So it was a bit weird playing against the same people flat out all the time. And then, yeah, I had times where I had to chuck a jumper on for the Swans and play for them for a quarter or two. Or, you know, I think it might have been against, I think we played against Essendon, and they had a couple of players from Richmond and Gold Coast. So it was just, yeah, it was a bit of a weird one. But I think everyone had their part in some way of doing that, and just to get the games going, because everyone wanted to play, because the training we had to do, we weren't allowed to train in more than groups of 10, and trying to do a big session like that, it was just a nightmare. So whatever the cost was, if it was a quarter for playing for the Swans or whatever you had to do, I think everyone was happy to do it. But yeah, it was a bit strange having that set up for a year.
It's like the under 10 days back in the day, and you chuck the jumper on for the poor side that doesn't have enough numbers on the day. What about, I was always thinking, seeing the photos and stuff, like the umpires that you had, was it just club officials that were umpiring the games? And did that get a little bit awkward? Because no doubt, you know, the competitive juices get flowing, and you need to let the umpires know a bit about it, but he could be a physio or something.
It was it was all the assistants. Like I remember playing against the Swans. We had a game where it was, our coaching staff was Lenny Hayes, Mark McVeigh, I think someone else umpiring, Adam Schneider, and the Swans had Stevie J, Dean Cox, and Brett Kirk, and they were umpires. So like, it was probably the best officiated game you'll ever see. But because Stevie J's at the Giants now. I remember he used to just be out there as an umpire for the Swans boys, but he was the forwards coach, so he'd just take their end and almost just kind of guide them while we played. So that was a bit weird having him out there. Yeah, it was a bit strange having someone like one of your coaches as the umpire, because if things start getting heated, as you said, you couldn't really crack it at him. It was just, play on.
And speaking of cracking it, I wanted to ask you to sort of give us a comparison in coaching styles between Choco Williams at Werribee and Leon Cameron at the Giants, because I feel like while Leon has that ability to, blow his top a little bit, I reckon Choco's got that in spades. Can you sort of compare the two for us?
Well, I reckon the thing with Choco is that I feel like everyone knows what you can see that from a mile away. I think that by the time Matt got to Werribee and when he was in charge when I was there, I feel like he'd come down about 10 or 15%. So and I'm not sure if it was because he was coaching guys who were part-time and not full-time athletes that maybe he thought that's what he had to do. So I don't think I got the fair share of experience for Choco going off his head or anything like that. He was very, in his, whenever he had to give you feedback, he was very strong in his ways. If he thought there was something I needed to improve, I'd know about it. And if there's something that he thought I was really good at, I'd know about it. So I didn't really get a chance to see Choco really go off. Even I'm actually kind of glad that I didn't as well. Seen him give out a few on TV and stuff. It doesn't look good.
And obviously moving up to Western Sydney from Melbourne, how's the lifestyle compare?
No, actually, I love it up here. I mean, last year, so when the first year at the Giants, they put all the draftees together into an apartment with Tom Green and Lockie Ash in Breakfast Point, which is about 15 minutes from the club, and then probably maybe about 20 minutes from the city, and then maybe about 30, 35 minutes to the eastern beaches, which is where we spend most of our time on our days off. I enjoy it a lot up here. I'm a Melbourne boy, but living up in Sydney, it's almost similar, but a bit different. I love getting out to the beach and stuff. So, yeah, it's when I got drafted, I was kind of shocked that I was moving to the state. I never thought I would, but I'm really glad that I did.
And was it a shock to get drafted? Like, was that sort of you put together a good 2019 VFL year, but was being drafted like something you sort of expected at the end of it?
As the draft got closer, I was expecting to, just with the feedback that I got. But at the 12 months earlier, if I had got told that I would have been drafted at the end of that year, I would have thought there was a lot to happen between then and when I did get drafted. So at the time, you almost, not that you almost know, but you get a lot of feedback from your manager and clubs, and that you almost have a good idea, if you will or won't. But yeah, definitely 12 months earlier than that, I probably would have said no. I wouldn't have expected it.
Did you speak to any clubs, or was being drafted by the Giants, was that a shock to go to GWS?
No, I spoke to the Giants beforehand, but it wasn't. It was just in the cafe for about 15, 20 minutes, and I didn't really hear much after that from them since. And then on draft day, I got a text from one of the head recruiters just asking a few questions about who's I've been interviewed by and all that. So then I told my manager, I thought, what's your thought on this? I haven't really thought much of it. And he kind of wrote them off about me going there. So I didn't really think I was going to be going to the Giants. I didn't really know where I was going to be going, but he almost ripped the Giants off until then. He said, well, maybe they will. So I think they kept their cards pretty close to their chest for me. So yeah, it was a bit of a shock when I did get picked up to the Giants, yeah.
Can you tell us a bit, Jake, about sort of your pathway from the TAC Cup and then into Werribee and the AFL? Because reading about you, you sort of had that big growth spurt and you were overlooked from Calder for your bottom age year, if I read that correctly, and then made your top age year. So it sort of seems like it's gone pretty quick. And then even with the VFL, you weren't a lock to start that in the team that year, but then, by the time the finals came, you were kicking snags. So can you sort of tell us a bit about that journey and, how quickly it went from, one extreme to the next at each level?
Yeah, well, so when I was probably 16, 17, so bottom age or 2 years out from my top age Cannons year, I had a real big growth spurt. So I was a midfielder when I grew up, and then had a big growth spurt and grew to about 190 by the time I was 17, and had a pretty good year at my local club, St. Bernard's. And then after that, got invited to go to the Cannons and pretty much trained that whole pre-season as a key forward. I never played key forward in my life until then. So then in my 18th year, played key forward at the Cannons, and then at school, got invited back as a 19-year-old. It didn't really work out there, but then luckily that someone at the club at the time used to work at Werribee, and that's how I got the link to go play there for a couple of games in my 19s year. And then, so then ended that you didn't have any expectation to get drafted. Had a pretty average year. Went to Werribee for pre-season. Like you said, I wasn't even probably, I reckon, January, February of the Werribee pre-season, I probably was just outside the team, and, I probably wasn't thought much of playing. And then I had a couple of good weeks, and I think we had a practice match where a lot of blokes played, and I actually played all right. So from there, it almost just the ball started rolling, and I ended up, stayed in the side. And, you know, I got a couple games of 23rd man. So you're pretty much, I think this is a rule, like you have to play a kid that's 19 years old. So luckily that was there because then I got my chance. Played about 3 or 4 games and played okay, and they kept me in the side. And then as my chances grew, I just kept playing well. By the end of the season, I was probably more part of the team than I was at the start.
And then, so that obviously correlated into good AFL form once you broke into the Giants team as well. You're probably a bit biased in this opinion, but do you think that, players getting drafted mature age from the VFL can almost be a bit more valuable sometimes than these 18-year-olds, say deep in the draft? It's sort of like, you can take these mature age guys that are ready to go straight away once they're in the side instead of these, young kids that still have time to develop and stuff like that. Because I think so many more guys now are coming in ready to go, like a Brett Bewley at Fremantle and those kind of guys. Do you see that as a path that clubs are going to take more often from now?
Yeah, I just think, it's probably just more so the early days, just getting used to playing against men. That's probably the one advantage you have. And for me, playing that year at Werribee where I got to play against men, that was probably the only real advantage. Then when you got to translate your footy and your talents into AFL form, I guess that would help. But I mean, I would like to see, it would be good if some more mature age guys got a chance. I mean, there actually has been a fair bit of an increase in that over the past few years, I've noticed, which is good. So hopefully that continues to stay. But I think, especially for early on in your career, it probably does help you just having that experience against men to then translate it over to AFL footy.
And you were telling us before about how when you got to the Giants, you moved in with a couple of the other first-year boys. Do you find it hard sometimes, being around the guys all day and then living with them as well, or is it always a bit of fun and you can play some FIFA or 2K or whatever?
No, we always had good fun, the boys. I was living with Greener and Ashy. And I mean, our house was a bit of a – it got to a bit of a mess come the end. Like, we were no good on that. Like, we'll have that every night, and we had to get a clean room once a week just to do everything for us. No matter how hard we tried, it just got messy and just so dirty. So it was always a bit of fun. It was hard, like going all 3 of us going from living at home to living away from home. But no, it was always good fun. Never had a bad day there.
And how long do you reckon it took you to sort of get on to house chores? Because I know when I, was growing up and then moved out of home, I had no idea what was going on. I didn't know what to do and where to start. Did you take a while to get used to all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, just like even little things, just like always. I remember we had a couple of times where we'd have about 3 or 4 days away from the club, and we all went home, and then we'd come back, and everything in the fridge would just stink, and the bins weren't taken out, and it just all stank. Like just being on top of that stuff, I reckon that's what killed us. And making your bed, like just stuff like that. I'm bad at that still now. So it does take a while to get used to. I mean, I'm glad. One thing is for sure, I'm glad that I've experienced it now, because I know a few of my mates back home still living at home, so they'll have to go through all that. Yeah.
Now, Jake, we like to ask everyone that comes on just to sort of want to find out a little bit about your teammates and who's good at what and who's not so good at certain things. So, in the gym, it's not a lot of blokes like to have a look at themselves in the mirror and just see how the work's been going. Who's the biggest flexer in the mirror?
I'm actually sitting in the car with Tom Green at the moment, and he's just pointed right at me.
We love that.
But who have I noticed? I look. Oh, actually, you know what? Actually, Connor Iden's the main one. He loves pulling up the shoes. He's in really, really, really good shape at the moment, and he likes having a little look, but I think it's deserved because he's looking in good form at the moment.
And who's a bit stiff on the coin? Like, who's not going to fish out a few dollars for a coffee?
That's where you point next to you. That's where you just point next to you.
That's what I was just thinking. Early days, I think it was a bit of green. He was a bit like that. He's gotten better now. I don't know. I feel like everyone that everyone has their fair share. It's always been good. Like me and Lockie Ash, we don't mind getting the coffee and stuff. We're always sharing it around. So I haven't really had experience anything like that yet. But I think early days was probably Green. I'm going to say it was him for sure.
And is there a pest at the club?
Yeah, everyone goes the same. Shane Mumford's is just the base answer. He's just like, he's just always doing something weird or just trying to annoy you. Just never walk past him without him trying to bug you.
What about a coach's pet?
Coach's pet. I mean, if you were the boy, not that he's a coach's pet, but I feel like Leon really loves Harry Perriman. He always just relates a lot of stuff back to him because he's just like everything he does. He's really clean, but he's just really tough as well. So I think that's a fair assessment there.
Yeah, we love that. Well, Jake, mate, thanks for joining us and taking the time out to jump on with us. And say good day to Tommy for us after the call. And good luck to you boys this year. We hope you go well.
Thanks, boys. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, mate.